All right, everybody, Periscope says we're live. Hopefully everything else is firing right now. Here we go, streaming, we're good. Guys, hello, welcome to the Packers' final regular season game here in Detroit. I'm Olivia Reiner, this is Pete Doherty, and we are here with you guys from PackersNews.com to preview the game and also discuss some of the scenarios that could play out into the playoffs with the seeding if the Packers were to win, if by chance the Packers were to lose today. So let's start with that. We can also get into inactives in just a moment, but primarily I think the most interesting thing coming out of this game today is where the Packers will be in terms of seeding. If they win today, they are guaranteed a second seed. If they win and with a Seahawks victory over the 49ers, that's a first seed. That's
big stuff.
Big stuff there.
That'd be 2 home playoff games if they keep winning. The bye is the big thing, getting the rest next week. 4 teams are out there beating each other up. Guys are getting hurt. And the teams with the byes are sitting at home with their feet up. Pretty tough to get hurt sitting at home. Not that it can't happen, but it's pretty tough to do. So a lot on the line for the Packers here. And you were asking, so if they lose, I think if they lose, they probably and New Orleans wins, and the Packers would be the 3rd seed, which would mean I think the Vikings coming up to Green Bay for a wild card game.
That would be a pretty exciting game.
It would be. Be interesting to see Dalvin Cook on the field against the Packers.
I don't think the Packers
and how that
want to
changes.
See that.
No, I'm sure they don't.
I don't think
they
so.
They want next weekend off.
But obviously, Packers fans want to see the team win here today for that second seed, the chance at the first seed. We'll see what happens, but let's discuss the inactives for the game at first. Pete, that is your job.
That is.
We'll have you take
Finally
it away.
some work I'm qualified for, reading the inactive list.
Yes.
The usual: Ryan Grant, Will Redmond, Jamal Williams, injured shoulder, Danny Vitale, an injured knee, I believe.
Yep.
Alex Light and John, is it LeGlue? Is that how we've decided we're saying this?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So obviously names that stand out right off the bat, Jamal Williams and Danny Vitale. For all intents and purposes, Danny Vitale is the 3rd string running back on this team. So
I wonder if he'll get a lot of 3rd down snaps. Is their 3rd down back, so Jones doesn't have to play the whole way? Because I just don't. Do you think they trust Dexter Williams enough to put him out there unless they have to have him?
What we're saying is with Vitale out,
Vitale out. Yeah, what am I saying?
He is the 3rd string running back.
Yes.
So there's a big gap in between Aaron Jones and Dexter Williams now. Plus Tyler Ervin is technically a running back. However, he is really primarily a specialist. He's taken.
I wonder if he'll get how many touches he'll get today.
I'd be surprised.
If that'll be more than Williams.
The guy has 4 or 5 carries in his career, let alone this season. He had 2 touches on the 2 jet sweeps last game, but he has not really carried the ball very much in this league.
Especially if they get ahead, they're not going to want Aaron Jones out there all the time because they cannot get him hurt.
No.
So somebody will have to play out there. It'll be interesting to see how much faith they have in Dexter Williams, how many snaps they give him.
Yeah, we'll find out. Yeah. When I was talking earlier on Friday to Jim Ozarski, I said that there's a way to work him into this game plan. They don't have to put him in the same scenarios. They won't put him in the same scenarios that they would put Aaron Jones in. Yeah. Perhaps some early downs.
Yeah, you wouldn't think 3rd downs.
Risk.
Yeah.
You're probably going to see Dexter Williams, if at all, on things more like that. You're not going to see him in the same scenarios where they're really going to be counting on the running back to do something spectacular like we know Aaron Jones is capable of doing.
Yeah, and if something were to happen to Aaron Jones, then they got problems.
Yeah, but the reality is that the Packers have probably known that Jamal Williams and Danny Vitale were not going to be active for this game this entire week, and they've been game planning accordingly. So we'll see what Matt LaFleur has in store for the game today. But also worth noting, as far as Aaron Jones is concerned, is that he is 2 touchdowns away from breaking the single-season franchise record for a running back set way back in 2003 by Amon Green. He set the 20-touchdown record. Aaron Jones sitting at 19 right now. Just 2 touchdowns will put him over the top. 1 touchdown will tie him.
Do you think he gets it?
I think he could.
I think he will.
I think he will.
I think he will,
He is the Packers' obviously their leading rusher, but he's also the second leading receiver on this team behind Devontae Adams.
He's their guy.
He is.
I was riding over here. I was talking with Ryan Wood about I'm trying to, because Amon Green had more the year he had the 20 touchdowns. I think he had 16 or 1,700 yards rushing. He was more of a workhorse. But I need to ask some scouts about this, but I'm not so sure Aaron Jones isn't the more dangerous running back. Green had a fumbling problem too, which Jones doesn't seem to have, although he fumbled one last week.
Yes. All right, so let's get over to the Facebook chat right now. Hello, guys. Thank you for joining us. We've got lots of you in here.
Eric Bronchek threatened to ask a question or two.
He did.
Texted me this morning.
Well, he's got a question in here right now that we might as well take because it does address some news that is somewhat relevant to the game today regarding Tony Brown. He was released yesterday by the Packers. He'd kind of fallen down the depth chart a little bit. He was inactive for the last 4 games, only played 9 games this season. And he had an injury early, a heel injury that put him on the injury report back in week 13, I believe. He came off the injury report last week, but presumably was healthy against the Minnesota Vikings, but he was a scratch. So he's somehow slipped out of the good graces of the Packers. He's primarily, I guess this season was mostly a special teamer.
Because early in the year, he was kind of the first, like the fourth corner, basically. It has the whiff of something is up with him. Something happened. It seemed awful abrupt that they just dumped him because they didn't. It's not like they did it to sign somebody else. So you do wonder what's going on there.
Well, Eric, our friend in the comments now, just asked if this was possibly a move that was made to bring up Raven Green from IR so they could have him for the playoffs. Raven Green has just recently started practicing just on the sidelines.
Yeah.
He hasn't even been brought back to practice yet. My gut tells me he's still a little bit away from returning to the team.
Yeah, I think if they brought him back for real practice, they'd have to designate him as IR return, which they have not done yet. So it could be to clear a spot, but usually teams don't do something, don't make a move until they have to. It's not like they're activating Green this week or next week on the 53. So it still smacks of something was up with Tony Brown. The Packers, for whatever reason, felt it was necessary to part ways with him immediately.
Yes. Also worth noting that Kadar Holman is up today, the cornerback who has very rarely, if at all, been up yet this season.
Only a couple times, I think.
Yeah, so there's a guy that now has a new opportunity with Tony Brown gone. He's got one less guy ahead of him.
Yeah, obviously he'll be out there in special teams a lot. I'm sure he's doing all the cover stuff. I wouldn't think he'd get in at corner unless all of our scores predictions turn out to be right, and then he'll be out there in the fourth quarter.
Yes. All right, Mike wants to know, does it look like there's a lot of Packers fans in the crowd? I'm looking right past the camera right now, and I see Packers fans standing right here. They travel well.
I would suspect there was hardly any traffic outside the stadium coming in. There's usually a lot more. There's no vibe down here on the field compared to a lot of the other fields that we've been on. I'll bet that there are more Packers fans than Lions fans here today. And I wouldn't think this will be anywhere near a full stadium. That would be the best guess.
Yeah, we'll find out. It's certainly not anywhere near full now, and we're about an hour and a half less away from kickoff. So.
I'm thinking last week when we were in Minnesota, there were already a fair amount of people in the stands. So.
Yeah. Mark asserts that this is a trap game for the Packers. How dangerous could the Lions be if they're able to get going early? If the Packers can't get going early and assert themselves to set the tone here in Detroit.
With all the time on these games where there's a heavy favorite, the longer the underdog stays in it, the more the favorite starts tightening up. I mean, they all could be trap games. It's just push comes to shove, though. It's hard to see David Blau beating Aaron Rodgers. That's, kind of what it comes down to.
Yes, it would be
that'd be a shocker.
Somewhat of an upset.
That would be a shocker.
Ken Delaria wants to know, should the Packers get Marquez Valdes-Scantling involved? They were able to get him involved in the offense against the Vikings, but not in the way that Packers fans might notice or care about so much, and that's as a run blocker. He had a big block that set up Aaron Jones for a rushing touchdown. He hasn't been out there catching deep balls like the fans are used to seeing him doing last season. It's been a bit of a slump for him, but perhaps there are other ways for him to contribute. He's not going anywhere. I think the real statement here is that the Packers aren't getting rid of him now.
It seems so week to week with these receivers, with Kumaro, Allison, Valdez-Scantling. None of them has played well enough where they're just feeding them the ball. I think they just go out each week hoping one of them makes a few plays to go along with Adams and Aaron Jones. They have talks. I've never been around a coaching staff that's talked more about their receivers being blockers, which it's good that they're good blockers, but it's not job number one for receivers either.
I'm sure it's not what they want to do primarily, and it's also taxing on their bodies.
And they actually have blocked really well, and they're big. People are wondering why they block. Well, they're all big guys. They're all 6'3" or taller. They're all over 200 pounds, so they're big guys. And they can block linebackers okay, and they can definitely handle defensive backs.
So Eric asks, do the Packers sit the Smith brothers if they go up by 2 possessions? I saw a similar question earlier. Do the Packers go as far as to sit Rodgers if the Packers are up by the end of the game and get Tim Boyle in there?
I think it'll take more than 2 possessions unless there's 6 minutes to go in the game, and even then, NFL coaches are very reluctant. That's one thing I've noticed over 25 years of this. They are very reluctant to put in the subs. They do it a lot more quickly in basketball. So I would think maybe more like 3 scores they would need to be up by before they start yanking guys.
Earlier this week, Matt LaFleur called this game a playoff game. And if that's truly how they view it, then they need to approach this game like it's a playoff game. They don't want to bench guys even with just down up a couple scores, whatever. I think that's going to take a little bit more than that for Rodgers and some of the starters to really get off the field.
The bye's a big deal. I did some research this week, and I think they started in '78 with the two bye format, and in all those years, every year at least a top 2 seed, at least one top 2 seed has been in the Super Bowl, and in 16 of them, I think maybe this goes back to 1990 actually, and in 16 of them, both Super Bowl teams were a top 2 seed, which means they had a playoff bye. I think there's a lot to be said for having that bye. Even though some teams, I talked to a scout who likes the momentum that you build if you play each week, that you get on a roll. But I think almost everyone in this league would rather have that bye.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
Health is so important in the playoffs.
It is. These guys are ridiculously healthy.
The healthiest teams are going to go the furthest. And if you're not playing the first week of the playoffs, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You can't get hurt if you're not
if you're
not playing. So that's going to be an important.
So if barring a big injury today, they could go into that first playoff game with, if they had their choice going into training camp of picking the 53 guys they'd want available, I think all 53 of those guys would probably be available unless something happens today to somebody.
That's really shocking.
It is.
It's unbelievable.
It never happens in this league. I mean, ever.
So Mike wants to know, will the Packers see more Jay Kumaro today? Mike wants to know, different Mike, wants to know if Kumaro is active today. Jay Kumaro is active. Will we see more of him is the real question.
What do you think?
Last week, I don't think we saw very much of him as a receiver out there catching passes, especially after Matt LaFleur said earlier in the week that they need to get him more involved in the offense. The truth of the matter is that when he is out there and when he gets opportunities, when he gets targeted out there, he capitalizes on it. He doesn't drop a lot of passes. He seems to be pretty reliable. So I think they should be using him more.
It's like, it's how he was in camp, right? He seemed to get open and catch the ball quite a bit. I would guess, Adams had the most catches in camp, but I would guess Kumaro was probably second.
All right, Pete, prediction time.
Prediction time, yes.
What was your prediction heading into this game today?
I went 31-13, the Green Bay Packers over the Detroit Lions.
I think I went 30-13.
And I think Jim Ozarski went 31-13 also.
Something about 13 and also 30 points. The Packers haven't gotten there very much this season.
No, they have not.
So it's saying a lot that we think that they could crack that berth today.
A lot of Aaron Jones. I wonder if they'll throw the ball to him a lot. But you never know who's going to emerge, who will make the plays. They haven't had they have Jones, Adams, and then it's who knows who.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be a good one for the Packers today. And if it's not, there's some bigger problems coming for them in the playoffs down the road. There's going to be some good teams, some good competitive teams. that the Packers will not want to see from the NFC.
This is one they got to win.
Coming up, they really do. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us here from Detroit. We appreciate you joining us. Make sure you come after the game. Me and Ryan Wood will be live following whatever happens today to wrap it up and to discuss the playoffs. This is our last pregame live regular season show. How sad are you?
We'll be on the Lambeau Field sidelines either next week or the week after. Much colder than we are right now.
Cold, so we're enjoying being in the dome today. It's been very nice, you guys. Also, make sure you're checking out PackersNews.com for all of your Packers coverage. Follow us on all of our social media channels so you can get lots of updates throughout the game and, of course, heading into the playoffs. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us.